After Trump was elected in November 2016, which I actually do think was this really seminal moment, I talked to people in the book about how, I mean, it was no one in that newsroom in New York and DC believed that was even possible. So this happens. And then I end up writing this proposal, this idea of, how can you see in the media that you're blind spots? And I called in all my favors. This was April of 2017. Went to CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, and said, look, here's a little proposal on maybe how you can reconnect, how you can have some introspection and talk to the people, see what was maybe missed. And there was a little bit of interest, but ultimately, passed. And that was really what turned into this book, because it's something that's missing. And frankly, Glenn, I think what happened was, instead of accepting that they missed something, they not only turned against Trump and the administration in a very strong and obvious way, but against the people that put him there. And that's just going the opposite direction.
It is funny. I didn't know you were doing that. I did the same thing. And I remember talking to Chuck Todd, and I said, Chuck, huge blind spots here. Yeah. Huge blind spots. And, just don't continue down this path. I'd like to sit and talk with you or anybody else that would be interested so you can understand the other side. All they really wanted to do was, nobody took me up on it, but when I would talk to them on the phone, all they wanted to do was say, this was crazy. I guess we are missing something.
Right.
But that guy's crazy, and then they just double down on it.
I think we see it, though, literally by geography. I mean, we both live in Dallas. We're outside of the New York and D.C. establishment, I think, by design. And you see people every day that have complicated, messy points of view. A lot of people I know who were gay and supported Trump. I mean, big Second Amendment supporters, but are Democrats. I mean, it's a mess. And so when you don't have that perspective in New York and DC newsrooms, that's what leads to these blind spots and no introspection about it.
I know you say this in the book, and it's practically a quote from Paul Harvey, who said, you want to fix the media, get them out of New York and Washington. He said, move them to Chicago.
Right. Yeah, get them somewhere else in the country, because I do, you talked in the last hour about the anti-freedom authoritarians.
Yeah.
And I write in the book, I describe it as anti-speech activists in the media these days, because I actually think it's gotten significantly worse and more pernicious in how the media has handled the general public since Trump left office. We saw this, I think, almost I begin the book with the Hunter Biden laptop coverage, because we now have a media that you would think the one occupation that would care the most about free speech and the free flow of ideas, that should be the media, that should be journalists. But instead it's gone the other way. They have wanted to clamp down on information getting to the public. We see this so much with COVID and so much in other stories where it's a real distrust in the public. We don't know if you can handle this information. And that's actually, I think that's something that's gotten worse. I remember when I started here at the Blaze, we did this campaign. I think it was called "More Voices, Not Less." I have a T-shirt with it. And even then, 2013, it was like, we don't want to get rid of MSNBC or the left. We want to get more voices out there.
Right.
And there was a little bit of that, of pushing against that at the time. But it has gotten so much worse in such a short amount of time now, where I actually think it's really more concerning that the media themselves don't even understand that the principles that they once had about accepting a freedom of speech and the First Amendment.
I don't understand how they miss that. Everything they used to be for, including anti-war, it seems as though the right is standing up for individual rights. They're standing up for all these things. And the left is diametrically opposed to everything they ever stood for.
Yeah, the new left and the new establishment media. I mean, I was talking to Glenn Greenwald a couple of days ago, and it reminded me, Glenn came to this studio in 2015. I remember April 2015, and we were talking right down the hallway here about what should we talk with Glenn Greenwald. He's a big lefty, big Bernie Sanders guy. Mm-hmm. Oh, we talk about surveillance state and about the Snowden and Hillary Clinton being established. And it was a great interview you did with him, and it was a couple blocks, and he did some things for the website after. That was 8 years ago. And that was a time that Glenn Greenwald was a regular on Chris Hayes' show on MSNBC and on CNN, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. Mm-hmm. The way that Glenn is now perceived in the press, I mean, he is like persona non grata on anywhere else in the press these days. And it's not because Glenn Greenwald changed, or Matt Taibbi, or Barry Weiss, or you, or me. We are essentially the same, or a lot of people in this audience. But the corporate press has changed so much that a person who has the exact same ideals like Glenn Greenwald or others is now just completely excommunicated and assigned to places like Substack or Rumble now. And great, because they can accrue a big audience. But that's not them changing. That is, as I lay out and uncovered, the corporate press fundamentally changing from the way they were even 5-7 years ago.